All right, welcome everybody. It's Doug here with the LincolnList.com. We're going to take a look at some technical levels and possible trade setups for the 25th of February. Let's start this one out with PTCT. Now, on a technical basis, this is really a top tier play for me. You got the 90 RSI on the daily. You've got a really good price jump here from the mid 55s up into the low 70s. So all of that works real nice. Now, there's a couple of things though that are a negative, and one that really started this spike was the buyout chatter or seeking potential suitors for sale. Now we hear this kind of stuff all the time. 95% of the time, it's just chatter. That's all it really is. It never materializes. But you got something different here. This is where the first spike happened on Monday, which was where the original short was, and it looked like it was going to retrace 100% of itself. And that would be normal once if the story turns out to be fluff or fake or whatever it might be. The fact that it kind of re-geared today has me a little concerned that sometimes when these things run a few days after that, it's either heavy speculation or somebody definitely knows something that we don't. And that could be driving the price up there. So we want to kind of pay attention to that. If you're going to trade that, you have to keep that in the back of your mind because something like that overrides any kind of technical analysis. Because if you get into it, they halt this thing, and then it turns around to be an 85 buyout, you're going to get smoked pretty heavy. So you've always got to pick your spots. You got to be careful. For me, it's just a trade only. Now, it is optionable. So for those that want to reduce the risk, you want to short it in case something like this or this catalyst turns out to be fake and it does come back down or it doesn't materialize. Then you can be a little bit more safe with your risk management by using options. Nonetheless, I want to look at it because there are some very nice chart setups intraday that give you the opportunity to take advantage of some massive gains, like today's gap up was 67.31, and you get a pretty good move down into the 64s. So you got a couple of dollar move just in a few candles, so there is some big money to be made. I also want to check up on this, which I haven't done yet. Excuse me for not doing it, but it shows here on Thinkorswim charts that on the 27th they have earnings, so definitely wouldn't trade it into earnings or hold it through earnings. I don't know if that's 100% accurate, but I would definitely look at it. It wouldn't matter tomorrow, but we'll keep our eye on that as well. I do like this chart. There are a couple of things that you have to consider outside of maybe perhaps a normal short, but keep this up here on the watch PTCT. On the flip side of that, at any moment news could come out that they're not seeking a sale or nobody's interested, and a lot of this move would get retraced instantly, and it would probably be pretty brisk. So PTCT on the top of the list there. Also, we got this BIOC. It's kind of like the next cheapo here on the move. This one's finally breaking some downtrend that it's been in for. It's a $10 stock. It's been smoked, and you're starting to come up off the bottom here. At this point, I'm not interested. I don't really like longing stuff down here. That doesn't mean that it isn't going any higher. I would be interested in shorting it because that's where my game is. And if you look at this, you've got some 385s here. At the beginning of the year, that was the resistance. And if you kind of go back maybe a little further, you've got some 426s and some 450s. So really in between this, I think if you get a nice move early where a spike would carry you, maybe a squeeze or something like that, it closed very strong today. So if you get that push towards the whole number or you get a really nice surge up in there, I think this would line you up for a very nice risk to reward short using a stop slightly above that 450. So the closer that you could get, the better, especially if there was a ramp up or a swift move into that number. And what I mean by that is something like this here, where you get a nice intraday chart as it starts to ramp up and gain momentum and kind of really explode or maybe even blow off into that number. That would be the best kind of setup. If it kind of just bounces and stair steps, maybe something like what you saw today, it might make it a little bit more difficult because what it does is just breaking out and then pulling back slightly, basing and then breaking out, and it just continues that trend over and over again. Those are a little bit harder to break down than these ramp up pairs, so I'd rather do that. So if it does make that move and we do get into a couple of those numbers, then I definitely want to take a look at it. Also, this VRX, it's a little pricey, but this thing too also has a very steep RSI on it. We're sitting here at 90s, which is a very good very good reversal zone. It's not 100% guaranteed, but it really kind of isolates some great areas where a stock becomes short-term overbought. Now, this one's coming off of earnings, and that's normal that sometimes these stocks will run heavy after earnings, but after 2 days and a nice price change here of about $35, it's probably time to start looking at maybe getting into a short here. The action was a little dull on this one today, but just like I mentioned with BIOC, is that if you get parabolic or you start making some new highs, like in this case here where you got this nice little grind up I mean, that's your trade right there, like this. You get this nice little grind up, a bunch of consecutive greens in a row, runs up into resistance, slightly makes a new high. It puts you at a good spot because you can start to work into a position and you have numbers to work off of where you can manage your risk. And in this case, you get in roughly around the 203s. And this move right here was nice. You go from 203.93 all the way down to 201. So there's moves, even if that's the only trade that you took on it throughout the day and then covered and never went back to it. I like this one here. You got a really nice high RSI. Would like to see one more push that gets us close into the 204s and then work off of today's high as a potential stop. If it goes low or gaps down, it's probably going to ruin the trade, but I do like this VRX here. I want to keep this one up on the list. Last, we'll talk a little bit about the EYES, EYES. Could be the first day of a big run. We've seen stocks like this. You know, it's very similar to what you saw with BIOC, making a nice move off of the bottom. Looks like this one might. It's at that cheap price target where you seem to get the entire social media trading community piling on these. And what can happen in these situations, like we saw with Gene, is you're going to get the aggressive shorts that could possibly come into something like this because it's up too much, which creates additional squeezes, broker call-ins. Next thing you know, this thing could be pushing towards the 15. Not saying it's going to happen. Not saying I'm long biased on this name either. But I would like to see how it trades. I certainly would be more interested at this point in a short, but that doesn't mean that this thing would come down either. Big old rip here late in the day, holding up most of its gains at 11.28. So we're going to work off of this here. I think if we don't really see any kind of move that comes down under this 1075 early, odds are it will try to make a push above this 1162 and squeeze. Now, if it happens to gap up and you already begin the day above 1250 or maybe even 13, then I would change the stance there and be pretty aggressive about wanting to short this trade, because at that point you would be looking at a move from roughly 8 to 13 in just 2 days time. Then I would like to get into it, but we'll see what happens here with this EYES, EYES. So just a quick recap there. We've got PTCT, BIOC, VRX, and EYES. We're going to take a look at all of these tomorrow and see what kind of trades we can get. As always, if you need help, you're looking for something more specific, because sometimes these trades don't work out anywhere near like I'm thinking, but you have to be able to adapt to that. You know, you got a game plan, and then you come into the market, and sometimes that game plan gets changed, and you have to, you know, maybe sometimes you look at a stock and you say, I want to short this, but it sets up really nice for a long. You have to be able to switch your biases like that and just trade what you're seeing on the charts. If you're having trouble doing that, or you're looking to get the precise entries and the precise exits, best thing to do is visit the linkenlist.com. Take a 14-day free trial. It costs you nothing. You get to see all the trades live in real time. You'll get to learn something, and that's worth the price of admission alone. See if you like it. Otherwise, thanks for watching. Take care of yourself. Have a great day trading.